Good morning, everyone. We are here on day 2 of Dahn Dahn Encore Extra Stage. I almost said extra exclusive. That was the wrong tournament.
Oh, that would be special too. But this is our own thing.
It is. So we're going to be started here very shortly. We're getting our first match set up on warm-ups, and they'll be jumping right into their song draw right after that.
And who do we have up here? I see LFK on player 2. And who's this on player 1?
I believe that is VYHD, and I am not sure if I'm saying their name correctly. Vid. Is that how you say it? VYHD. Vid. That would make a lot more sense than what I've been saying.
VYHD?
Yeah, I don't know where I got that from.
I kind of like it, though.
I just saw a bunch of consonants, and my brain's like, make a word somehow with that.
Yeah, go for it.
But in addition to the people out playing, we should maybe introduce ourselves as well.
Yes, and to each other. This is the first that we've met.
This is the first time we met. So hopefully we'll have a lot of fun together in commentary today. But this is Kim Laka, Ohio DDR native, and with me I have...
I'm Duncan. I'm from New York, Pennsylvania area. I've kind of gone back and forth between.
Okay. So we're about to have a lot of fun here today. And bear with me, I'm still eating my breakfast.
Yeah, we've kind of been rushing through. Last night was a very late night, so we've been waking up early pretty much, or late. Everybody's been waking up late. So it's going to be exciting to see how the first two here adjust to coming straight out of bed and then having to play their first match, which, as I've learned, Tier 5 is going to include 17s as part of their potential draw. So they're going to come out cold and maybe have to play Delta Max CSP.
That is not how I want to spend my Sunday morning waking up.
I mean, it sounds like an ideal Sunday morning if you ask
Does it? Okay.
me. Yeah.
I guess we're built differently.
Maybe Delta Max ESP is an ideal Sunday morning.
Yeah, no challenge. That's a little too much for Sunday morning. But yesterday we had team battles for the first half of the day, and they were just jumping straight into 16s and 17s cold as their first song of the day.
And 18s.
Yes, there was definitely a couple 18s as warm-ups. And I can't even comprehend doing that. That just sounds like torture to me.
It was.
Yeah. So you were one of them.
I was one of them who had to, and it didn't go well. But it went less not well for me, and that's all that matters, is who did less bad.
Okay.
I think we're doing a warm-up here right now with these two. They're warming up with Windy Fairy, which is a really good warm-up song. It has a couple interesting and weird patterns, especially the very end can trip people up. So I think it'll get them kind of locked into trying trickier things, getting a couple different rhythms, and but it has good sync, so it'll help them kind of find the global sync of the pad.
Absolutely.
Oh, look at this card draw.
Okay. Pretty good start for the day. Nothing too crazy right off the bat yet.
Oh, we do have a 17.
Do have a 17.
So the fabled 17 morning is going to be happening, but
at least they got to start with a 15.
They will start with a 15, and a pretty straightforward one at that. Can you tell us a little bit about ÖVERSOUL?
ÖVERSOUL, yeah. So that was a song that was crossover from Soundvoltex. Actually, probably one of the more fun Soundvoltex chart crossovers. A lot of people seem to enjoy it, both the challenge and the expert charts. Synced pretty well. Overall, pretty straightforward. A nice 155 BPM, which is pretty easy to lock into. So I think they'll get them moving pretty good here before we move into our second song of the day, which is new Century Expert. Get a little more going on.
Yeah, the new Century is not the most challenging 17, but it does have some things that will throw you for a loop if you're not prepared for them. It has a couple foot switch crossovers where it will stop on, say, a down note, and then you'll need to switch from your left foot on the down note over to your right foot on the down note in order for you to not completely twist and fall off the pad, basically.
Right.
And it's doing that at 195 BPM, which is profoundly fast to be doing something like that, especially the very end. It's like a famous pattern, right up left, left down right, right up left, which requires players to turn their bodies essentially completely sideways and zipper.
Yeah, the Scooby's a little bit of a run killer.
Oh, look at this. Warm-up tie.
Whoa, wow.
Well, I think today's going to be a good day.
Love to see it.
And I hope for both of their sakes that they do not tie at any point and have to play extended Megamix 17.
Well, actually, so the tiebreaker song will be Crazy Love.
Oh, okay.
Just to explain to chat how the song selection is displaying on the stream for you. We are having the players' names showing which song that they picked, and then the tiebreaker being the third song. in order to display it for you, we can't really veto it because we have to be manually typing these songs in. So the next 2 songs in position 4 and 5 are actually those players' vetoes.
Smart
so those
choices.
Were not being replayed. Yes.
Yeah, I understand why they wouldn't have wanted to play Extended Mega Mix to start their day.
Ooh, yeah, that would be a rough one.
That is one of the hardest 17s for sure.
I think that's like a borderline 17, 18 in my opinion.
So it looks like LFK, they have a PFC on this with 53 perfects and a near PFC from Vid. Hard to know what their MA is, but based on their warm-up, they're going to have very similar MAs.
Yes.
I'm excited to see how close this is, both at ×4. So we've got similar ways of playing this song.
Yeah, also of note, since we are playing this tournament on Ace2O Plus, this version is a couple versions old at this point, so there might be a lot of players who have since played songs and gotten newer scores on the more modern versions, and those will not be reflected on their EMU's cards on Ace2O Plus. So just keep that in mind when some people are playing. They might not be the most accurate, up-to-date scores showing on their account.
That's a good point, and also we're going to see how people are adjusting to the old UI coming back. The arrows are a little bit larger on this UI, the font is a little different, the darkness of the background is a little different, and even the sync can be a little bit different, especially for players who use constant in the new world version for any songs with slowdowns and stops, or who like to use visual offset. I'm one of those people who uses a lot of visual offset. So you can see that that will impact certain players who are more accustomed to A20 Plus or are less accustomed to it. I think there will be some advantage there.
Sure, definitely. All right, so as we're about halfway through the song, pretty close between the two of them. LFK with a little bit of a lead, about 10EX or so right now over Rib. So we'll see how they fare as we continue through the song.
Yeah, other than one miss pretty early on from Vid, they've both been holding on to gold combos, which is good to see. And we know that they're both capable of it based on their personal bests.
Right, I'm always hesitant to mention the combo color on commentary because we all know commentators curse. But so far, maybe you're allowed to mention it. Maybe just I'm not allowed because nothing's happened yet.
Nothing's happened. I like to test fate a little bit.
Okay, getting close to the end of this song. LFK still's got that lead. We'll see if he can hold on to this. All right, and LFK's going to take that first win.
And we'll see how this compares to the personal best. It was pretty locked in the whole way. 27, that is a significant up score, so this may be one of the situations you're saying where they've since had an improvement.
It very well may be, but that is still a very good score to start the day off in your first song.
My goodness. 42 also would have been a personal best. So wow, good play from both Vid and LFK. Now they're going to be going into New Century, and this is what we were talking about. Very excited to see how they adjust to a one-song warm-up, 17, right to start off the day.
All right, so moving right into New Century. A little bit of a gear change from ΩVERSOUL.
This is very stamina intensive. It doesn't have a lot of moments where it really lets up on players. Not a lot of like long streams, but it just doesn't really have breaks in it.
Right.
Anytime where there is a break from stream, it'll give you a couple jumps. Yeah, it just overall is relatively relentless, though the sync is really solid.
Yes, sync is very well liked by most people.
And you can see that looking at LFK's 14, only 9 perfects on that. It's just an absurd score.
Yeah, the difficult chart for this, very notable for being an early PFC and even MFC for people who are at that ability.
For people who even think about MFC.
Right. So this song definitely, it picks up a lot in the second half. It's not too bad as far as 17s go for the first part of it, but it's just going to pick up and kind of be relentless by the time we reach the halfway mark.
Yep, when you hear that voice come in and say Ichi ni Sanshi, you know it is about to go down.
I've been studying Japanese for the last couple of months, and this song is part of the reason I knew a few counts of Japanese before I started.
You're like, hey, that's 1, 2, 3. How about that?
And that is exactly why I remembered 1, 2, 3 is because of New Century.
Wow, they are really close right now. It's going back and forth between tied, 1 point off, 2 points off. At the break there, LFK had a 5-point lead.
Yeah, both still very consistent. Like I said, the sync is very good in this song, so it's easy to dial into that. Here's our first slowdown.
A little crossover here. That trips almost everybody up.
Yeah, we'll pick up a couple misses there on Vid's side.
All right, a little bit of a lead from LFK. See if they can hold on to it. And here it goes. Ichi ni san chi. And if they were playing the 18 chart, this is when the chart would get profoundly harder.
Oh, yes.
But the 17 does start incorporating these 8th note crossovers. You're seeing it's tripping up LFK a little bit, which is giving an opening for Vid to actually take the lead here.
Oh, wow. See, anything can happen in these games.
Yep. But the streams just continue here through the end, so there's an opportunity for either of them to take this. They're pretty much on a dead tie right now.
It's going to come down to, I think, that ending Scooby run.
Yep, here's the sideways turn. Oh, they opted to double step it.
Oh, and LFK is going to take
Wow.
a second win.
And that went back and forth. LFK had a
did.
lead. It went to Vid. Wow.
I'd always wonder when players are playing like that if they ever do the score check for their opponents to see if they're in the lead. Or I know some people don't like to look at all. Some people like to, have an idea if they're winning or losing against their opponent. But for something like that where there's so much going on, you don't really have time to do a score check.
Yeah, there are some songs, maybe like Haunted Maid Lunch, where you have 15 seconds to just stand and stare. But I think for the most part, there aren't too many songs where it really behooves you to take a look. I think you could even make the mistake of, if you glance down into that bottom right corner when you're on the left, suddenly an arrow might appear and you've distracted yourself. Right. And so I think most people are just live by the don't look, never look, do your best not to look.
I've definitely been burned by that in the past.
You have?
Yes. I always tell myself not to look, and then I get curious, and I think I have time, and I glance down there, and then I miss an arrow. But tournaments aren't exactly my forte. I don't perform well in tournaments because I get so nervous.
And so you find yourself here behind the desk.
Yeah, this is where I'd rather be, honestly.
Same, I would say so. Yeah, it reminds me of, I can't remember who it was, but it was two classic players in like an old Extreme tournament playing Stoic, and both of them were holding on to basically the AAA combo up until the stop. And then one of the players looked down at the other player, saw that they both had it, and then panicked and missed the note entirely and lost the song on it. And God, I can't remember who it was, but that story has like stuck in my brain ever since.
Just living rent-free in your brain.
Yeah, we'll never look.
Yeah, some people are really motivated by knowing they're either ahead or slightly behind.
Yeah.
Some other people are just like, oh crap, now I need to make up some ground.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be moving into our second match here with Kinfante and Big Matt. I believe they'll be getting a warm-up song first, so they'll be looking for a good song to play, and then we'll be getting the song draw up for you guys in just a couple minutes here.
Yeah, and speaking of classic tournaments, we have Big Matt coming up.
Yes.
Who is one of the classic players, one of the old men who I had the pleasure of playing against in our Boomers and Zoomers match yesterday. And he is a proud 40s DDR player.
He is.
It comes with its challenges, but he's still out here absolutely ripping it. You can see the scores he has, not just on the challenge chart, but he plays the basic, the difficult, the expert, the challenge. He will PFC them all.
Oh, yeah. He is very good at MA, very dialed in, been around for a long time, so he knows all these songs, all these charts from way back when. Looks like he's opting to play the 13 for a warm-up. Kinfante is playing the 15 for Cirno's Perfect Math class. Interesting to see different warm-up strats for people. Some people want to play something faster to get their legs moving. Some people really want to dial into that MA to get their brain moving faster. So lots of different ways to handle that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the 13 actually gives you a unique pattern in those Scoobies that you don't get in the 15.
Right.
So you do get an opportunity to practice something very specific. Right. And I see Matt is working on the double steps for those Scoobies and holding on to something pretty special that I won't name.
You didn't have to
doesn't
anyways.
even matter what I name it.
Gold combos are still special.
Yes, gold combos are special. And yeah, so this is Cirno's Perfect Math class. I think a controversial song. A lot of people really love it. A lot of people also don't love it at all.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think
actually grown on me. I didn't care for it at first, but it's one of those things. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome, but I actually enjoy playing it a lot now.
Yeah, it's good. I think that some of this genre of song are more annoying than others.
Yes.
But this one's good. I like it.
Yeah, lots of Toho songs in DDR these days, and whether or not you are a Toho fan, I'm sure you have opinions on some of them. But you know what? There's just like any other genre of song. You got good songs, you got bad songs. Not
That's
everyone's
right.
gonna like them. Some people will.
That's right. You have the range from this to knee-high stockings.
Yes.
Which,
big range there.
Yeah, which is definitely not as enjoyable of a play.
Agreed. All right, so after this warm-up song, we're going to be getting into their match, and it looks like Big Matt protected Electronic Retreat for their first song, which is pretty tricky 15. Definitely going to see them trying to hone in onto the sync on that song. It has a lot of speed changes and changes between swing time and straight time, so very tricky song to start the day with for them.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times when people are thinking about like songs for picks and counter picks, they think of either, do I want to go with the straightforward songs or do I want to go with the really tricky, gimmicky songs?
Sure.
But I think there are those songs in the middle that people forget about, and Electronic Retreat is one of those, where it's not like a known, oh, you got to always remember Electronic Retreat. It's got all these gimmicks. It really only has one gimmick, but it's weird enough that it can really trip people up if they haven't practiced on it, so I think a lot of people will forget to practice it. So I think it's a really good pick in tournament. And we actually have had this conversation in Team Heron specifically about Electronic Retreat because Amber chose it at upbeat.
I do remember that.
To much effect. It kind of tripped everybody else up in that pool of 8. So I think I'll be interested to see how this works for Kinfante. And unsurprisingly, Kinfante picked the 17 AETHER, which is a really stamina-intensive, jumpy chart. I think they're both playing to their strengths there.
Definitely. And if we do end up going to a third song, their tiebreaker will be Come to Life Experts.
Crowd favorite.
It definitely is. So interestingly enough, this song, Electronic Retreat, I believe this used to be a 14 at one point.
Oh, is that so?
And it got re-rated to 15. So real interesting. It's not stamina intensive, but it is very tricky. So I can definitely see why they would have changed this to a 15.
Yeah, especially with those swing notes. It's not that many steps, but the amount of energy that you have to spend in those swing crossovers there is so much more than you would if those were all 8th notes.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and you're seeing Big Matt is really locked into those swing steps. Not surprised at all that this was his pick.
Yes, he's definitely a very strong MA player. He can dial into this and more than most people can.
In a little bit, though, they're going to be doing the speed change, which, again, is a very awkward transition. So let's see how they do. I think that's around 300 steps, a little bit after that.
And the slowdown into 16th notes is very tricky to time.
But they're both doing really well with it right now. A little bit of a trip up from Matt there, but still with a healthy lead over Kinfante.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a good pick from Matt. And when you're protecting songs, you want to think about your strengths, but you also want to think about your opponent if you know them, because that will definitely influence your decision. If you might feel comfortable with some songs, but if you know for a fact that your opponent is not good at a certain song or does not favor a certain song, then you definitely want to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. I'm not sure how well these two know each other's play, but especially with players that you have been in tournament with before, it is always fun when you're like, oh, I know they're not good at this one.
But Matt's going to take that win. 8 greats is pretty good in Electronic Retreat.
And you could hear probably from the crowd the AARP chant in honor of him approaching really the end of his life.
Yeah, I guess we have boomers and zoomers representing here on chat as well, or on commentary.
Are you a proud boomer?
I'm pretty much in that category, yeah. I fit more with the boomers than the zoomers at this point. Not quite 40, but I'll be getting there in a few years.
Don't look a year over 39. All right, so coming up, we've got AETHER, a tag classic.
It is. Honestly, I love tag.
Don't we all?
But this is probably one of my less favorite tag songs.
Okay, interesting. Well, I mean, there are so many good ones. It's still
I just feel like
amazing.
Possession did everything that this song is trying to do better.
Oh.
But, I mean, we all love Possession.
I do really like this slowdown.
The slowdown is fun. I just feel like this song doesn't end as soon as I feel like it does. It has that key change at the end when you think it's going to end, and you're just like, oh, just end already.
It does have an additional run of the chorus. Yeah. Yeah. We love when that happens. Some of those songs just have an extra 20 seconds you don't expect. Matt dropping that opening hold. I don't know if he forgot that there was a stop there, or what?
But still pretty dialed in.
Yeah.
Both of them look like they're not having any trouble at all with these 8th note runs.
So I'm going to be really curious to see what happens in the back half of this song. I think Big Matt is going to have naturally a little bit crisper MA, but I'm curious if Kinfante is going to be able to take advantage of his really good stamina as they get into the back half of the song and maybe overtake that lead that Big Matt has right now.
Sure.
So we're going to watch maybe the transition during this slowdown. There's a potential for the lead to change at some point, so I'm going to be looking to see if Big Matt can hold on.
Yeah, and it looks like Matt's dropping off the bar there, probably give his arms and shoulders a little bit of a rest during the slowdown before he needs to grab back on for the speed up.
Still a pretty healthy lead for Matt here, but this is when things really start to get stamina intensive in the end, so anything can happen.
Yeah, and when you're real dialed into MA like that, I know, a lot of players will have different form that they use to dial into MA versus stamina. So when you're trying real hard on MA, you might be like pushing your body more than you would when you're trying to conserve stamina.
Yes.
So it could be really hard to hold on to that form and then also get through a stamina section.
All right, relatively close here. Within about 10 EX right now. And those ending jumps right at the end, the last 10 steps, can really make the difference. It would not be unheard of for players to drop a couple of those notes.
Oh, and Matt held on to that lead. And
Matt held
the win.
on.
Very good performance from both of them. It was very impressive.
Wow, big smile on his face too.
And I just noticed he's not even playing with fast slow on.
I do not understand how somebody can do that.
I know. Ever since fast slow was a thing, I've never been able to go back.
AARP coming back out. Looking forward to hearing that probably 10 more times today. All right, so Big Matt taking it 2-0. Great job from both players. Really solid scores, both in their warm-up and in their songs that they played in the match. So next up, let's see who our final two for this will be. Or I guess we've already had 4, so we're just going to see what the new combination is. Going back to the table, I see LFK and Vid.
Oh yeah, this is our song draw station behind us over here. So you'll see our players looking at a laptop, picking their songs, and then picking if they want to protect first, veto first, pad choice. Pretty standard fare for most tournaments.
All right, Big Matt is up for his second match in a row up against Vid. So since we're doing round robins in each of these pools, you're going to see a lot of the same players playing each other in different iterations. So I'm excited to see, as players are now more warmed up, everybody has had a match in this pool. They're probably going to play even better than they did in the match before.
Yes. So they'll be jumping straight into this. No more warm-up since both these players just played pretty recently. So we'll see what they're going to play in the card draw. And I believe we are in 15 to 17 range for the card draw in this pool. So those are the song ranges you can expect to see coming up.
Yes, 40% 15, 40% 16, and then 20% 17.
Okay.
Although we found in each of our matches there has been a 17 that they've ended up playing. So I think as long as there's one person who wants to do it, they'll do it.
True. Okay, a Saber Wing headshot mix. This is a pretty tricky song back from DDRX.
Yeah, and talk about sync challenges.
Yes, this is probably one of the first really notable bad synced charts.
Yeah, so it is a very, very late song, and so you're going to probably see a lot of fasts from Vid. You won't know what you're getting from Matt because he doesn't display fast and slow, but it will probably be a lot of fasts from both of them.
He knows in his heart.
He knows in his heart. And this is one that I think if either of them had been playing on DDR World, they would likely use a visual offset to help with.
Definitely.
So readjusting to this song will be a big challenge. Really hard to time this, especially with the stop starts and speed changes that you're going to see right here.
Yeah, so another interesting thing, if you're used to playing on the most modern DDR version, DDR World, you do have the ability to change a visual offset to your arrows. So if either of those players are used to doing that and now having to go back to play an H2O Plus where you don't have the option to change that offset, that could definitely trip you up a bit. But it doesn't look like either of them are having any problems whatsoever with this.
No, they're doing great. Vid with a little bit of a lead, but especially as there's going to be a lot more stops and starts coming up, there's a lot of opportunities for missed notes, some greats, and dropped things that Big Mac can take advantage of.
Both of them pretty clearly showing that they know this chart and all the gimmicks it has to throw at them. But the real homework is going to be the ending of the song, which is just one long continuous run with some crossovers in there.
Both hitting that first crossover and the second one. Wow, they're both looking really solid.
They really are. They are dialed in.
Vid still with a healthy lead.
All right.
Oh.
Really good showing from both of them. Was that a full combo on both their sides?
Yeah.
6 greats for both.
Wow, look at that money
Wow.
score. Really just the difference of some perfects.
That was really, really good from both of them.
Ooh. Talking about dialing into sync, May is coming up next, and while the sync isn't particularly challenging, getting the BPM is going to be really hard. There is a really famous slowdown into a gradual speed up, and those gradual speed ups are some of the hardest things in DDR to time.
They're very hard to time.
I think the first 30 seconds or so of the song, maybe even 40 seconds of the song, aren't going to be particularly interesting. It's just going to be dialed into the MA. They're both going to be doing great. And then we're going to hit that slowdown, and that's, I think, where we'll see potentially one of the two players pull away.
Yes. Very similar scores on their EMU's cards. Whether or not those are their most accurate and up-to-date scores, I don't know. But at one point in time, they had a very similar score on this, to say the least.
And very similar good scores, too, at
Yes.
that.
So for those of you out there that play 2DX or have played 2DX, May is a very infamous song from that rhythm game. I believe it's been one of the very few songs that has been in almost every version of 2DX since it's come out.
Really?
Yeah, 2DX is famous for pretty much resetting their song list every new version, so songs don't stick around as long. But May has been, I would say, either the final song of Kaiden or one of the songs of Kaiden for a very, very long time. So
And
it's
that-
kind of infamous for 2DX players.
Became part of kind of the standard DDR lore and DDR Ace when it was part of the Konami Championship qualifiers. So a lot of players were kind of grinding this song a lot back in, I guess it was like 2016.
It feels so long ago now.
It was 8 years ago. That was before I even played DDR.
I think that's before a lot of people started playing DDR again, because it's kind of dead in the United States until Ace came around.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's that first. Oh, not yet. Slowdown will be coming up. I was getting too excited.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why. It's very fun to watch. And yeah, like we kind of predicted, they're pretty much at a tie right now. This is going to be really easy for both of them until that speed up comes along, and we'll start to see probably some greats coming out.
Yeah, very, very neck and neck though so far. So here's that first slowdown. It's going to be really tough for them to dial in and keep their MA throughout this.
Really nailing these freeze arrows.
All right, and Ajakin, thank you for confirming my thoughts on May. It was in Kaiden the whole time since 2DX12 Happy Sky. All right, Matt picking up some misses there, given a bit of place to pull ahead with the lead.
24-point lead for Vid, coming out pretty much from a tie at the start of that. So that's a good place for Vid to be. There are some complicated little patterns here at the end, though. After these jumps, Matt shaking his head a little bit. I don't think he was happy with how that went. Vid holding on to a full combo here. I want to see if he can take this all the way through the final slowdown without getting any goods. Oh, what am I doing?
Commentator's curse.
What am I doing here? I said the word good as it turned blue.
Commentators have more power than you think they do.
I'm learning that very rapidly.
All right, real good showing from both of them.
Amazing.
Vid's going to take the win on that one with a 40 EX lead over Big Matt.
Big hugs and smiles from each of them. One of my favorite things about competitive DDR is that the word competitive is not super, not even true really to it, and that like we are competing against each other, but we're mostly just trying to have fun, play our best, and compete with ourselves. And so there's never any animosity between the two players.
Oh, no.
Like it's always joy, happy. Like when you see somebody else absolutely destroys you, you're like, good for you, that was awesome, way to go, buddy. And I feel like you don't see that as much in other competitive scenes in the same way, which is something that I really love.
Yes, the camaraderie in the DDR community is fantastic. People just love coming to these events to hang out, see their friends, play with their friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun.
which doesn't at all reduce from the fact that people are playing at the absolute top of their game as hard as they can, absolutely trying to win and caring a lot about it, but still having a really positive attitude about it.
Yes. All right, you can see over here on the left side of the screen the Max 300 towel.
Nice.
That Kinfante is sporting. I love seeing all the DDR merch and garb that everyone has accumulated over the years between towels and shirts and custom hats.
That's right.
It's real fun.
I assume that when Bogo comes up in the 7th pool, we will see the Max 300 t-shirt. He is known for playing with that pretty often at tournaments. I haven't yet seen him at the venue, but I'll be looking out for that Max 300 shirt.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I come from the running world, and it was always bad luck to wear a shirt for a race that you hadn't run in yet. But that's not the case for DDR tournaments. People like to buy a tournament shirt for the tournament they're competing in and wear it the whole weekend, which is great. They're supporting the event, showing it off. So it's interesting that there's not that same level of bad luck in tournaments as well.
You know,
or maybe there is, and this hasn't been tested yet.
I was going to say, I come from the running world, and I never heard of this bad
really?
luck. Yeah, I wore the shirt all the time.
No, I could never wear a shirt until I finished a race. That was like sacrilegious to me.
Oh.
But clearly it didn't have any effect on you, so I'm just superstitious, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm a little stitious, but between the two of us, I think that we definitely have a little bit of a different experience in our our running shirts.
Okay, so we're going to be moving into our first song here, which is Zephyr Challenge. One of the earlier 15s back from the Supernova days. Pretty straightforward 15. Sync is a little wonky, but nothing too egregious.
Yeah. At a time, this was just about the hardest song you could think of.
Definitely one of them.
Which is funny to think of now.
I know.
So the one moment where I think the sync really does kind of shift up a little bit is when it moves into... It kind of takes away the drums and is just mostly the operatic voices. And it's one of the slower parts of the song in terms of fewer 16th notes, but the sync does seem to shift a little bit in that section. So that is about 2/3 of the way through the song, and we'll see if we see any additional perfects coming out of them at that part.
Yeah. Otherwise, pretty close. Kinfante, a little bit of a lead over LFK right now. Kinfante is playing on another player's card, in case you are wondering why the names do not match. We do have some staff graciously lending their cards to have for people that have forgotten their EMU's card, lost it, or just don't have all their songs unlocked.
Yeah, I think about 7 or 8 people were Sandblow yesterday.
Very popular player.
And Viv said she just continued to call people Sandblow. And I'm like, wow, Sandblow's been playing a lot today.
Ironically enough, I don't think I've seen the song Sandblow come up yet.
That's right. Yeah, we need to see it at least once. I would prefer it's not while I'm playing.
That's fair. All right, so Kinfante's still with a pretty good lead, but not too far behind as LFK. And we've got these 16th notes, 5-note drills at the end here.
Ten-note lead there.
All right, Kinfante's not going to let anything up, and he's going to take the win on the first song.
But LFK does get the prize of the Grateful Combo, only with 2 greats. Wow.
Yeah.
That's solid.
Pretty good showing for both of them.
And we're moving over to Pape Pipo Poo. Potentially not in that order, but...
Pape Poo Pe Po.
Pape Pupo Pet Pipi.
It's a tongue twister. Just say it 5 times fast.
But a very fun song.
Yes.
I think it's pretty much universally loved. Again, good sync, relatively straightforward. Has a little bit of a step jumpy thing that happens. But the rhythms are really solid. That underlying beat is really solid too, so it's easy to kind of like lock into it. Where there are songs like Zephyr where it is more challenging to really like feel the beat because it's a lot of strings and orchestral operatic sounds. This is just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, you got that hard-hitting bass keeping you on beat. So most notable in this chart, you have some jump step sections that stay in the same 2 arrows. Some players just choose to jump the entire time, even on the parts that are single steps, just because it's really hard to shift back and forth between your two legs to nail those. So we'll see how they fare when they get to that part. Miss early on over here on Kinfante's side. but we're still very early into the song.
We had about 115 white there before LFK finally dropped it. So if they can hold on to that pace, this is going to be looking really solid for them. Which, this is when they need it because first song went to Kinfante, so this could be a potential third song for us.
Definitely. But still very early into the song.
Yes.
Anything can happen. Also, the way that I remember the vowels for Pape Poupe Po is it's the same vowel order as for any Metal Gear Solid fans out there, Lale Lule Lo, which is, well, that's just some Metal Gear lore I won't get into because I'll be here all day.
And even after hearing you say it 3 times, I'm still running it over in my brain.
Oh, they are tied up.
Oh my goodness. And interestingly, both of them have the background dancer of Afro, so even more so of a tie here.
Oh my god, they are just neck and neck. Still got a bit of song to go,
Yep.
so there's a lot that can happen.
Only a 3x difference. And the hardest rhythms do come in the back sections. Oh, their steps sound so crisp right now.
They really are. I'm seeing just marvelous all across the screen, both sides. All right,
Wow.
LFK is going to take the win on that one by
Only
a 6
6.
EX lead. That was incredibly close.
And for people who aren't super familiar with the EX scoring system, 6EX essentially translates to 2 steps. Each step is worth a maximum of 3 EX points with a Marvelous. So any 2 steps, those 2 misses, would make the difference of the entirety of the song.
Okay, so it looks like we had a player that dropped. Give me 1 second. So the next poll, it looks like we had a player that dropped. So if you're following along in the bracket, it may not be up to date and accurate, but we'll update you some more on the information of who's playing once we get there.
Now we are moving to one of the most tricky synced songs out there.
Oh, yeah.
On the bounce. Really inconsistent, but also relatively early.
Yeah, pretty early throughout. Kind of started looking at the song trail again. Zephyr's pretty late. Pape Poupe Po is pretty on time, and then On the Bounce is pretty early. So kind of going across a whole spectrum of sync for these first 3 songs.
Looking at final offset, looks like this is 18.5 millisecond bias toward being early, which is
really
profound.
early.
That is 18.5 milliseconds is more than the Marvelous window.
Right.
So it's an entire perfect. If you hit all Marvelouses right on where it should be sung, you will get exactly all perfects throughout the song. You won't get a single Marvelous if you hit it perfect.
I want to see someone do that now.
I know someone
no
named Chris
Marvelous
who could
PFC.
probably do it. But interestingly, I'm seeing fasts from LFK, which is very rare on this song, as you're mostly going to be seeing slows out of people. I see slow from Kinfante, so it could be an overcorrection.
Yeah, that's my thought. I have a feeling he's pretty familiar with this chart, knows it's early. He's trying to stay ahead of it because he knows it's early, and has just pushed a little too far in the other direction.
I always think that pushing too far in the other direction is the right move. I think that getting that kind of triangulation of the sync is really helpful. If you just keep trying to make tiny adjustments, you often find you won't make it to where the center point is. So if you go a little too far and overcorrect, it gives you a sense of, okay, now I can reroute and get back to the middle.
Yeah.
So I think that LFK is really smart to do that.
A little easier to rein it in than it is to try to creep your way up to the sync that you're looking for. Yeah, very close so far. Kinfante with a little bit of a lead over LFK.
I almost said Sandblow.
I know, I have to keep looking up and remember that's not his name.
Right now, I want to point the attention of people to their eyes, because they are both just fully and locked in focus right now. Kinfante with the lead coming into the end here. Nailing that full combo, too.
19-point lead for Kinfante. He's going to take the match win, 2-1.
LFK putting hands on thighs and saying, "Oof, that was tough," out loud, swearing that was a really hard song, being impressed with themselves, but also leading a cheer for Kinfante. It always makes me happy to see somebody turn around and say, like, "Hey, cheers to this person."
Oh, definitely. Like I said, the camaraderie is always really fantastic to see. Everyone's always really happy and supportive for their competitor, and lots of fun to play with your friends. Now, how do you feel, had that been a 17 in the first place, do you feel differently of the fact that it was re-rated after you got the PFC, or would you have felt better if it was already a 17 when you were
it would have felt like
which one felt more satisfying?
I think it feels more satisfying when you get it in the moment than just like a retroactive change.
Okay. Obviously, it's still impressive. Any 17 PFC is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, good for Anna. I didn't know that.
Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep, and then they moved what was the 17 up to an 18, which
yes,
I think is warranted, but it definitely could be a 17 still. I think it would have been an acceptable hard 17.
Sure. But it's always a little odd to have two different difficulties being the same level, so I understand the need for bumping up the challenge chart too.
Well, let's do that to Delta Max, why don't we?
This is true.
While we're at it.
I don't think many people would argue with Delta Max challenge being an 18.
I certainly would not. Those are two vastly different charts. Unreal, okay.
All right, and yes, B down. The three charts that we mentioned were all bumped up to 16. So Endymion, Over the Period, and Max 360 difficult. Okay, first song, Unreal. This is definitely a tricky song to dial into the sync on.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons for that is because of how noisy the chart is, or how noisy the song is, that there's a lot of these rock songs are really difficult to really hear the solid beat on because there's so much guitar and vocals and other like kind of like dirty sounds that really complicate it, especially when you don't have headphones on, you just have a speaker. So it can get a little bit muddled, especially when you're trying to lock into that MA window.
And it's always interesting to me, DDR speakers aren't that great. So if you're playing a song in the arcade and you hear a song, if you go back and you listen to that song at home with headphones in, there might be sounds you've never heard before. So that's happened to me in a few things. I'm like, I've never heard that in a song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ved picking up a miss there, but still pretty close. He actually still has a lead over Kinfante too.
Yeah, the step jumps in this are so hard to lock into. And this is a relatively late song, too. This is a 13.5 millisecond bias. Not as bad as what we were talking about before with On the Bounce, but still a significant off-sync.
And I personally find later songs harder than earlier songs. Just holding back seems to be a lot more difficult than trying to rush to get to the beat.
And I think the more tired you get and the more challenging a song is, the more that your body will naturally rush. Whether out of panic or just kind of your feet falling in tiredness more quickly. So definitely in these harder step jump moments, people will tend to get fast.
Yeah. So Vid's going to take a pretty good solid lead there. It looks like Kinfante struggled a bit with those step jumps. 4 greats is pretty damn good from Vid's side there.
Yeah, to almost swing out a AAA on that. And to have like a really good distribution of fast and slow. If you take a look at Kinfante, that's more of what you would expect from a distribution like this, to get almost all entirely fast. But to be so locked in that you're really splitting pretty 50-50 the way that Vid did. Very impressive.
And it's definitely one of those charts that favor some people more than others. So step jumps, you either like them or you don't. And even sometimes it just depends on the kind of day you're having. I know when I go to the arcade, sometimes I'm like, I'm feeling step jumps today, and I can just bang them out. But if I'm not feeling it, they're not happening.
Well, good for you, because I don't think I've ever felt step jumps before in my life.
All right, moving on now to Out of Focus Challenge. Another interesting sync chart. This one's pretty late as well.
It is, and it shifts as well. It starts kind of on sync, and then there is that stop into the little thing, which is a fun moment, but
it's fun when you hit it.
It's fun when you hit it, but the sync shifts there on that stop, and then it gradually makes its way back onto the original sync over the course of the rest of the song. Those kinds of drifting syncs are so hard to feel out.
Yes. And so this chart also has, or the song has a 15 expert chart as well. Some people actually find the 16 a little easier because it kind of goes with the music a little better. there's just more notes that go along with the music. Where the 15 has a little bit more dead space. It's sometimes even harder to hit that, even though it's less notes.
Yeah, Kinfante getting a little tripped up by that. Unsurprising. This was Vid's pick, so I don't think Kinfante was fully aware of what was going to happen.
Yeah, Vid being really dialed in there. Doesn't seem to be being affected by the sync at all.
Or those tricky changes in patterns. I think one of the hardest things is when songs alternate between 16th notes and 12th notes in real time, like in midstream, like it does in this song a couple times. And Vid was just absolutely knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, definitely an acquired skill. Some people don't have any trouble at all with those kind of changes between 12th and 16th notes. Endorphin's a good example that comes to mind that switches between the two a lot.
And the new song Identity, the 17, has really tricky shifts in between those at 200 BPM. Long streams back and forth between 12 and 16. Wow, Vid absolutely destroying right now.
He is
up on
very
PB.
dialed in. All right, picking up a good at the end, but Vid still got the full combo, and it's going to take the song win on that as well. I'm not sure if that was his personal best on his eMuse card, but if it was, he just beat it, because that was, I think I saw a +3 at the end there.
Mm-hmm. It just kind of feels random.
Yeah. I mean, it is a Sota Fujimori song. He is pretty notable for doing really crazy rhythms. Sometimes the steps are charted to it, sometimes not, but in Glitter, they're like, we're going to chart to every single one of those tricky sounds that you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's kind of the New Decade effect.
Right.
The end, the end of New Decade, the beginning of Blew My Mind. God, love Sota.
I do love Sota.
He likes to mess around with some floating yellow notes.
Yes.
All right, so this is LFK and Big Matt, I believe, our last match of this half of the Tier 5 bracket.
So Rockataku, the background music, I'm not sure what song was playing, but we are playing stuff from Stream Palettes. I believe it was actually the playlist that Renalis had set up for the last Mistake in the Lake 5. So I don't have the song list on me currently, but we can probably get that to you later if you're curious. Okay, Toy Box Factory. This is a fun song.
Nice. Yeah, they were floating over a couple songs there that looked a lot less fun, but then they moved the cursor over to Toy Box Factory. Great sync, relatively straightforward, but one very long, fun, hard stream.
Yes. Depending on how you feel about drills, you either like this chart or you hate it.
And it looks like Big Matt likes it.
Sure does.
Not sure whose pick each was just yet. But I wouldn't be surprised by either of them picking this. I think that this can fit into LFK's skill set as well.
Sure.
But it was Big Matt.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Big Matt really good at dialing into MA, so he can probably just dial into these drills here with no problem.
And I'd be excited to see that they pretty much have exclusively solid sync on these three songs.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be too many issues with sync on these next three songs. This chart was another one that was re-rated. This used to be a 14 on Ace 2-0 when it came out.
I think that's a really good decision to change that.
I agree. There's actually quite a number of 14s that became 15s from Ace 2-0. Yeah, this song, it just sounds fun.
Yeah, I think any song that has the desserts background is a good song.
Yeah, I think
you know you're having a good time when you see the ice cream cones and strawberries.
So I have such a mental image in my head whenever I hear this song, and that's all I can see now, and I'm going to share it with the rest of you so you can also all see the same thing that I do.
I'm closing my eyes.
So I'm just picturing that you're at a kid's birthday party, like 5, 6-year-old kids, and they've just hired a clown, and the kids are running around, and they're still in the clown's balloon animals and nose, and he's running around chasing after them, trying to get the stuff back, and they're just making a mess all over the house, tracking cake throughout the house. That's just the image that is in my head for the song.
Yeah, I absolutely see that. I appreciate you bringing us into your brain there for a little bit. Yeah, especially I can see kind of the clown tripping over himself, especially. Right. This is silly.
Big Matt real dialed in here, but LFK's not too far behind.
But the big drill is coming up, and that is where there is potential for nonsense to happen in tournament. Because even if you're really dialed in most of the time, all it takes is you to just get a little bit off, and then it's going to last the whole drill.
Yeah. Actually, I think we already... Oh, no, this is the big drill. You're right. There's 2 big drills. And he's dialed right in there.
All right, but only 6 apart.
Yeah, LFK made up some ground at the end, but Big Matt did not let anything up for him to take that. 34 and a miss.
Woo.
So 41 and a great. Both really good scores from both of them.
My goodness, yeah. They're at that stage in the tournament where every single player is like so scary.
Right.
Honestly, the whole tournament is that way, but like, it does get to that point in day 2 where you're like, crazy things are happening.
So if anyone's ever played Toy Box Factory Difficult, I believe it's a 12. There's a drill at the end of the 12, like a 16th note drill at the very end of the 12. And I played it.
Is it half the length? Like it starts on 8th notes and transitions into 16th?
I think so. I just know it ends with 16th notes. It's obviously not as long as that one, but it's long enough for a 12, and it completely caught me off guard. I'm like, really, you're going to throw a 16th note drill into a 12?
The charting on some of these lowers, man. Like Konami, every once in a while makes charting decisions where I don't know. Why make this a 12 if you're going to throw that in there?
Right. Okay, moving into Air Heroes. Very popular song.
Yeah.
A lot of people can really dial in on this 15. I think it's an earlier PFC for this level range for a lot of people for that reason.
Yeah, I think there's 2 tricky moments. One is the foot switches.
Oh, those are so fun.
Yeah.
I love the foot switch section.
The foot switches, and then right after the foot switches, the quick little drill, break, drill, or not drill, like stream, break, stream, break.
Yeah.
Those are two moments where I'm curious to see if one of them kind of takes a lead.
Yeah, so 2 16th note runs, one near the beginning, one near the end of the song. But otherwise, pretty straightforward. It's synced pretty well. Here's that first longish run. Matt just nailed that.
That is scary.
It's so crisp.
Yeah, this is one of those songs where you just like to listen and hear the footsteps.
Okay.
All right, here come those little streams I was talking about leading into the foot switches. And they're both hitting it really well.
So dialed in on both sides. Here's a little foot switch section.
Looks like they're both opting to double step.
Yeah, I mean, Duncan and both craning our necks to look at their feet to see how they were doing it.
At the same time, we what is it? Yeah.
Okay, still both very dialed in. Matt with a pretty good lead. We'll see if he can hold on to that to the end of the song. All right, and also Skate 7 Dom. This is the only stream for the tournament, Ohio DDR.
Big Matt dropping the PFC right at the end, but still is such a solid run.
Very, very solid.
21!
That was really dialed in. Getting some more AARP chance for Big Matt. But hey, just goes to show you, age is just a number.
Age is just a number, and so is a perfect count.
Exactly.
If you can get your perfect count lower than your age, you're doing something right.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, and he's got it at half his age on that one.
There,
so that's
there we go.